Hello, and welcome to episode 201 of the Book Binge, where today we're talking about a very short book, but a very fun book, one that I enjoyed quite a bit way early this year, back in like February, and that I somehow forgot to review up to that point. This is, of course, The Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon. Again, like I said, very short book. This thing's only 150 pages. It's not, well, it's difficult because Pynchon is difficult, but it's not really like that hard. I did this one as an immersive read earlier this year, like I said, in February. And again, as I said, I somehow completely forgot to review this when I did read it, which is really quite strange. But Pynchon as an author is one that I've been quite scared of, all things considered, for one reason for another. A lot of that reason being because of Gravity's Rainbow just existing. That's a book that I'm really not looking forward to reading at some point in time. But I kind of knew that Lot 49 here would be more or less the best starting place with the author for me, and it turned out that I was right, because it is pretty short. It's pretty digestible, relatively speaking, and weirdly, it is fun. Before I say any more at the start of the video here, let's go directly into the good of The Crying of Lot 49, and I think the main thing that I have to praise about this is the sheer unbridled absurdity of it. If you know anything about Pynchon as an author, this is probably no surprise to you. Look no further than the character names of this book or pretty much any of his other books if you want to know the levels of absurd that this guy is willing to go to for pretty much just about no reason. Pynchon definitely has a knack for tone that is both super real and super deep at once, that makes for a really engaging reading experience, and Lot 49 definitely exemplifies that. I don't know if that tone is necessarily something that is consistent with all of his works, but it is definitely something that exists in this one, and it is great. That tone is also utilized very thoroughly through the fact that Lot 49 is a satire. And it is not just a satire of any one specific thing, it is a satire of many things. Mainly, the most noticeable thing, of course, is that Lot 49 is a satire of the mystery genre of novel writing. The entire book itself is itself a mystery that does not complete itself in the end. That is a lot of how it plays with the mystery genre to be a satire, but it also plays on plenty of the tropes of the genre as well in fun and interesting ways. You don't even necessarily have to have read a lot of mystery books to understand or appreciate this. There's something about mystery as a sort of a genre of film and books and just general entertainment, even as, something that we kind of all do, like just solving mysteries and whatever in our day-to-day lives. That is, it's just kind of inherent to our being. We kind of get some of those tropes just inherently. If you've watched any amount of media of anything that could even be remotely considered a mystery, you know basically all the major tropes of a mystery, and this book definitely plays with all of those. In addition to being a satire of mystery novels, it is also a satire of the journey of self-discovery that main characters tend to go on in just about any book worth its salt in this day and age, and most books in general have some sort of character journey, and the main character going on a journey of self-discovery is by no means a new thing, and Lot 49 plays around with that quite a bit as well. To say any more kind of spoils a lot of the journey of Oedipa, the main character of the book, but it is quite funny at very many points in time. But it also is a little bit depressing at other points as well. By the time you come to the end of it, you come to a realization about the purpose of the book, the purpose of the plot, the purpose of Oedipa's journey in the plot as well, that is kind of a little bit too real and is really great for self-reflecting and whatnot. At least it was for me. That's how it felt, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And most importantly, beyond being a satire of like these two general things, The Crying of Lot 49 is kind of a satire of itself, which is something that's kind of hard to explain in any detail, but like it's true. If you read the book, you will know exactly what I mean. It is making fun of itself and making fun of its own circularity or lack thereof at every turn, and it's really quite just a fun ride because of that. The narrative ideas of mystery and imperfect circularity as kind of these topics of which the book is a satire are very interesting as well. They are themselves a thing to praise about The Crying of Lot 49. The drive of the novel is Oedipa searching for answers to a character's death and his life, her lover's death and life, and basically becomes a mystery of various discoveries she makes along the way. She essentially takes a journey that tries to figure out why she was made uh, the executor of this lover's estate. Like, why was she the one put into this role and this position? And all along the way, she just continues to find answers to stuff that just continue raising more questions. Like I said, mystery tropes are definitely abound throughout the course of the novel and come to a head at the very end of the book when none of it is truly resolved as part of a satire of the mystery, like I was talking about before. In the end, every single answer raises more questions, equal amount, if not more questions ahead of it, and it just makes for a strangely engaging and engrossing story. There's also a lot of thematic material to appreciate about The Crying of Lot 49 in the thematic ideas of obsession and completion, most especially. A couple of things that I kind of relate to, not least because being a little bit of autistic means that, you know, special interest obsession is kind of something that is inherent to my life growing up, most especially, but even now to a degree as well. And I also have a kind of an obsession with completing stuff. I have a really hard time DNFing books, as an example. Whenever I play games, I most often play the types of games that are easy or interesting for me personally to 100%, and I have a problem with not trying to 100% the vast majority of stuff I play. So these are things that I relate to, these topics. Oedipa's obsession in the book is definitely a big driver of her character's self-reflection journey, her self-discovery journey, but it is also a driver that takes her away from others and also away from herself. This is part of the way that the book is able to be a satire of the self-discovery journey, because the more she learns, the more disconnected she becomes from everything. There's kind of an irony there that is fun to realize as you continue to read the book. Her desire to see this task through that she starts at basically the beginning of the book also ends with effectively no tangible progress as a result of it just kind of ending without actually being resolved. There's no tangible progress having been made, even though there have been answers to some things. Because all of those answers lead to more questions, it doesn't feel like any real progress has actually been made in the long run. I know it was a little bit redundant in some of those sentences, forgive me a bit, but Oedipa effectively makes a joke of herself throughout the book, discovering herself yet becoming more lost as the book goes on. And it's kind of funny that way, the way that that satire is funny, but satire can also be serious, and there are some of those serious aspects of the satire in those aspects as well. Finally, The Crying of Lot 49 has a lot of great interpretations that you can make for it. In fact, it could arguably made to be endless interpretations with the book. The very ending itself yields much room for speculation because it doesn't end on a resolved or final note, at least not the way that we would typically expect or want for a novel to do so. There is no real true answer to the mystery that we get, so we kind of have to interpret the plot that we get just in any way that we know how. There are some interpretations that lead people to believe that the plot is itself an entire joke, an inside joke, or a joke played on Oedipa herself as the character, assuming that the crier at the end of the book is a specific character. I won't say anything more than that. But there are also interpretations about the book that maybe there are just way too many layers to it, and that if you were to go through the entire actual story, you'd end up with a book very, very, very long that still would barely complete itself. And would it even be worth that journey at that point if you already have the theme of kind of endless search for nothing? Because of the variety of possible interpretations, this book is also fun in that way, because you can read it and discuss with basically anybody else who has read it about the ending and what the ending means and how that reflects on the journey itself, the imperfect circularity as I kind of described it. And it makes for really great discussion material, quite frankly. But as much as I'm going to praise The Crying of Lot 49, because I have done plenty of that, there's also a few bad things about it as well. The book is, despite only being 150 pages, pretty dense and confusing at times for sure, which seems to be a hallmark for Pynchon as an author, so nothing horribly surprising on that front. I just praised the satire and mystery and such, but some people are not going to like those aspects of it and the way that they're utilized in this sort of dense and we'll say sort of intentionally obfuscating manner that Pynchon utilizes these satirical elements. And that's something that some people are going to bounce off of. There's also the fact that, like, I don't think the reader is necessarily supposed to get it with this book. They're not supposed to get the book or to understand it, because nobody really seems to actually get it or understand it. And that's okay. That's actually, at least in my interpretation, there seems to be a little bit part of the point is that you're not supposed to get it. You're supposed to interpret what you think it's supposed to mean. You're supposed to assume that maybe you get part of it, but I don't think you're supposed to entirely get it, which is not going to be something that a lot of readers are going to appreciate. Most readers who finish the book and really appreciate it understand this and have come to terms with it, or are able to look at it in the sense of, like, I don't get it, and maybe that's okay. This is certainly how I feel, and as long as you go into it understanding that that's probably going to be the case, you'll probably appreciate some aspects of it to a degree that maybe even I do. If you have a fun time and like the interpretation of the book at the end of it, you'll like the book, basically. If not, you'll probably hate that you wasted any time with Pynchon, but maybe if you're someone who's not going to click with Pynchon, it's good to bounce off of, say, The Crying of Lot 49 is a pretty short book, and just not read any more Pynchon than to go on. I haven't read any other Pynchon besides this one, so I don't know if that's the case, but maybe like me, it's best to start off here. I just don't know. Also, the thing that I kind of hinted at basically the entire time of this video is that there's no ending. There's no true ending. Not exactly a very good ending the way we would normally interpret an ending to be good, which, like I said, is part of the point to a degree. The satirical take on the mystery is why it's part of the book to some degree, but many people might feel like the book was a waste of time because there is no true ending here. I would ordinarily be one of those people. I am not necessarily famous by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the things that some of my friends know me for is my favorite things of books being the climax and resolution of it. And without any actual climax or resolution, as this book features neither of, you would think that I would probably hate The Crying of Lot 49, and I think I'm supposed to, but I don't. It just really clicked for me the way that things turned around. As for the ugly, however, we'll move on to the next section here. There are ways to see the plot, the playing out of the plot anyway, and some of the character journeys in here as super nihilistic. And I actually understand and see those interpretations. I can see why that people could come to that conclusion. In a way, this interpretation could totally drag down the book for some people. I have a friend who actually was really struggling with the book for much of it because of this seeming nihilism, this sort of repetitive cycle that the book kind of goes on to a degree. There's the interpretation, the understanding that no matter how much Oedipa searches, she will continue searching forever, as kind of a thematic thesis for the book, which is the implied thematic portrait of the novel, given no true ending, of course. If you're somebody who really, really hates nihilistic themes, maybe this book is not going to work for you, because it's definitely a valid interpretation of it. It's not necessarily how I saw it. Like, I did see it that way, but I didn't take it as like the, oh, it's nihilism type thing. But given that Pynchon is a postmodern author, it's maybe not so surprising that that is definitely a way to read his work. So if that's something that you're definitely liable or prone to bounce off of, I don't know. It could definitely hurt your experience for sure. For the recommendation, let's just say that this is a really hard one to recommend, because I really loved this book. I really enjoyed it. This is one that I would consider to be a certified 4 out of 5-star masterpiece, a novel that has problems, things that kind of hold it back, but which I feel like is just doing something really, really special and is really great because of that, but is hard to recommend. 4 out of 5-star masterpieces for me are almost always books that I really love, but for some specific reason I find hard to actively recommend. Books like American Psycho are like this, a book that is one of my favorites, but I'm never going to read it again, and I don't necessarily recommend for other people to read it either if they don't know what they're getting into. Infinite Jest is another one of these types of books where it's got a lot of really great stuff in it, but there's also a lot of fluff. And fluff is not even the right word, because there's a lot of just meth in the middle of the road that you're going to like step on and then like eat or something. That's not how meth works, but that's okay, because it's just the point that there's a lot holding that book back as well. Crying of Lot 49 is very nearly that kind of a book, something that has certain things going for it that are part of the story that certain people just really are not going to work with, but which worked with me to a degree. So I think at the end of the day, I don't actually recommend The Crying of Lot 49, because I think most people, at least most people watching this channel, most fantasy readers these days, will probably bounce off it to one degree or another for one reason or another, depending on what your tastes and your interests are in reading as a medium. Pynchon in general, like I said, seems to be kind of like one of those authors that's this way. But I think if you are interested in Pynchon, or if you are interested in more thematic, sort of literary postmodern work, The Crying of Lot 49 is pretty good, as long as you're aware of what you're getting into. You know, over the course of this review, I've told you basically what you're getting into with this one. I think you'll ultimately find the journey to be worth it, as long as you understand that and go into it with the right expectations and understanding the journey you're about to go on. Additionally, though, like I said, I haven't read any other Pynchon yet, this is probably the best starting point. It seems like that might have been the case for me, and I think it might be the best case for you because it's short. So if you're interested, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work for you, it might be because Pynchon isn't the author for you, but it could be a myriad of other reasons as well. So let me know how I did reviewing this one. That's going to be the end of the review. Lot 49 was huge in sort of my reviewing journey this year. This was one of the first books that I wrote like an in-depth, more like not even like video essay, quote unquote, because it's not a video. This was one of my first in-depth reviews over on Goodreads that I wrote early in the year that kind of adapted and shifted the way that I reviewed books on Goodreads, and it definitely holds a huge place in my heart for that reason, not just because of how much I enjoyed it. It was also one of the first ones of this style that I was super happy with as far as the reviewing goes. But because several of these aspects, it was also a little bit harder to review there as well. So I'm not sure how well I did with the written review. I kind of reread it while I was preparing these notes here. And there's certain things that I would expand or change about that review, but I'm going to keep it as is for now. I have no idea if this video review was any better than that. I felt like it was pretty good for most of the way, but definitely let me know. Give me a shout in the in the comments if not, either way. If you stick around until Tuesday, just a couple days from now, I will be reviewing yet another book that has plenty of thematic stuff going on. That is A Canticle for Leibowitz. That review will be coming out on Tuesday. So if you enjoyed this video, definitely stick around for that if you're interested. Either way, I will be back in the next video, and I hope to see you there.